A rookie Metro police officer is behind bars after allegedly shooting dead a motorist for not stopping at a roadblock. The ANC drops an attempt to control media coverage of its birthday celebrations on Sunday. Hello and welcome to eNews Direct. I'm Shahan Ramkisu.
And I'm Sandy Legangwase. Good evening.
To comment on our stories, find us on Twitter, look for @eNews Direct, like eNews Direct on Facebook, and find all the day's top stories on eNCA.com/direct.
And tonight our hashtags are Pretoria shooting and ANC 105.
This leads our bulletin. A Metro police officer is tonight behind bars after allegedly shooting and killing a man in Pretoria. The victim apparently failed to stop at a roadblock. Tshwane Metro Police say the officer involved is a new recruit.
A single shot, allegedly fired from a Metro police officer's gun, ended the life of the driver of this car. He was on his way to work when the altercation happened. A charge of murder has been laid against the officer.
We as Tshwane Metro Police Department, what we'll do, as I mentioned, we'll cooperate with the SAPS, with an IP, and also we are going to investigate as to what happened.
An eyewitness who wouldn't speak on camera says that when he arrived at the scene, he found the motorist trying to restart his car. He says that he didn't see the motorist and the Metro officer talk, but then the officer went over to the windscreen and fired a shot at the man, who then died on the scene.
Tshwane Metro Police did say that the officer involved in the incident is relatively new to the job.
We had members that were recently appointed. He's one of those group that are coming from a particular group.
The deceased's family gathered at the spot where he died. They say the 39-year-old worked just a few meters from where he was killed at a government telecommunications department. He was a father of two. Relatives say they're shocked that something like this has happened to him. Teresa Taylor, Pretoria.
The ANC has backtracked on its attempt to control Sunday's live coverage of its 105th birthday celebrations. Earlier this week, the governing party said broadcasters would only be allowed to take one camera into Orlando Stadium and would not be allowed to interview any supporters in the stands. The party also wanted to filter all the broadcasters' live visuals through one central point. Our editorial team refused to accept those conditions.
Concerns were raised. We are handling those issues with your people at a technical level. There's nobody who's going to be stopped, like the SGF said, from addressing, from accessing that point. Zizi and the team are here to guide you. How can When the issue of muzzling Parliament was done, you know what happened. How can we muzzle you in a stadium? It's an open-ended field. All what we're doing, we're bringing control. And at the same time, we're archiving our own story and giving it back to you. So there is no restriction. And to even elevate the issue to SANEF, I mean really, guys, please. There's a big problem, you are in Baghdad.
The family of one of the boys killed during a drag racing accident involving Joop Joop Marohanye is unhappy that he's home tonight. They say they're disappointed he's been released from jail on parole. Joop Joop and Themba Shabalala spent 4 years behind bars after being convicted of culpable homicide.
In 2010, high on drugs, Joop Joop and his friend Themba Shabalala killed 4 school children while drag racing in Soweto. One of them was a 16-year-old Phumulelo Masemola. His sister believes 4 years behind bars is not enough.
I would say I'm extremely disappointed on the decision that was taken today. I'm extremely disappointed on the laws of this country and how they function, due to the fact that most of the family members, especially the parents, were actually a little bit satisfied with the decision of the 20-year sentence that was granted to them. But now, since it has been reduced, and that was also without any consultation of any members of the families of the deceased at all. It was just heard on the media, through the media, that, you know what, it has been reduced.
But that's not all she's disappointed about.
I just also want to highlight the fact that I'm extremely disappointed about how their families have handled the whole matter. There was no sort of remorse that has been shown to the families. There was no apology that was granted. There was nothing that was done from their side.
Joop Joop's lawyer told eNCA the families had not opposed the application for parole. Lindo Guhle, Johannesburg.
A 700 million rand industry and almost 6,000 jobs are under threat. This year's trawl fishing of hake and sole has been provisionally suspended. One of the main players in the industry has obtained a court interdict to fight the new fishing rights awarded in December.
There will be no hake fishing while the new quota issue is being settled in court. One of the major existing rights holders, Viking Fishing, has obtained an interdict which effectively suspends the start of this year's fishing season. The old players are up in arms after new 15-year rights were awarded to 27 small fishing companies. The department says reducing existing rights holders' quotas will allow smaller, black-owned trawlers a chance to get a foothold in the industry. It claims Viking Fishing is holding everyone to ransom because the company feels entitled to rights in the sector they've monopolized for over 20 years.
Nobody has a right to a particular quantum or amount. It is informed by a number of issues, including the need to transform the industry, the need to make sure that the fisheries sector remains sustainable.
Viking Fishing says the reduction of its 2017 fishing quota will be disastrous.
When one is faced with a 60% reduction in your quota in that particular fishery, our business model no longer can work. So we would basically need to close down. Most of our workforce is from historically disadvantaged fishing communities that operate there, and their jobs are at risk with this cut.
The courts will hear the matter on the 6th of February. Until then, no fishing will take place. A tough start to the year for those working in the industry. Piladi Situsa, Cape Town.
Cape Town may face tougher water restrictions if residents don't cut down on consumption. Locals have so far managed to decrease their daily usage, but that's not good enough. The national target is 800 million litres per day.
Cape Townians should snitch on their neighbours who waste water. That's a request from authorities who are desperately trying to cut back on the city's consumption.
We have so many water users in the city and we only have limited resources. We need our residents to be our eyes and ears on the ground, and they do need to complain, and they have been. We need more and more of that, in fact, because there are a lot of people that are transgressing.
The most common water wastage occurs in the garden with hosepipes and sprinklers. Transgressors are already being penalized.
We can actually impose fines on people, monetary fines on people, and we have been doing that. We're going to continue doing that. We're going to put more and more resources this year.
Reddy warns if people fail to be water wise, a blanket ban will be imposed.
We will consider harsher restrictions, which might mean that nobody will be allowed to water their gardens at any time, in any way. Currently, you can water it if you use a bucket, but you can't use a hosepipe. We're hoping it won't get to that point.
The city is working on increasing resources to monitor on-the-ground water usage. In the meantime, you can report water wastage to the city via email to water.restrictions@capetown.gov.za. Archie Narcy, Cape Town.
International news now. Authorities have issued an alert for typhoid fever. This follows the recent increase in the number of cases reported in Zimbabwe. Harare has contributed 76% of all reported cases, with 2 deaths, 126 suspected and 12 confirmed cases. A Chibok schoolgirl and her 6-month-old baby are doing well. Nigerian soldiers found Rakia Abukar wandering around a former Boko Haram stronghold. She's one of 276 schoolgirls abducted by the Islamic militants nearly 3 years ago. More than 20 were released in October in a deal brokered by the Red Cross. Others have escaped or been rescued, but about 200 are still missing. And a South Korean court has sentenced a Volkswagen executive to 18 months in jail. Identified only as Yoon, he was found guilty of fabricating documents on emissions and noise levels tests. The executive did this to get certification for vehicles for import. This is the latest fallout from Volkswagen's emissions test cheating scandal.
Meanwhile, Shahan standing by with all of your social media.
All right, thanks very much, Sandile. Vilakazi Street in Soweto was awash with ANC colours today. The governing party's leaders held a small rally garnering support for the weekend's birthday bash. The mood in the area was festive, restaurants were packed and some streets cordoned off. President Jacob Zuma will address the rally on Sunday. Meanwhile, hashtag Don't Fill Up Orlando has been trending. It began after EFF leader Julius Malema appealed to young people to boycott the ANC's January 8 statement. Malema says young people planning to support the governing party are traitors. He's also appealed to the unemployed and the poor to stay away. Many have used the anti-ANC hashtag to complain about high unemployment, poor school infrastructure and corruption within the party. For more on these stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at eNews Direct or go to our website enca.com/direct. After the break, it's your business and weather forecast. Welcome back. It seems 2017 may hold some pleasant surprises for consumers. AgriSA predicts food prices could drop thanks to recent rainfall, and you can expect cheaper flights this year.
The recent rains have brought good tidings for crops, and with more rain forecast, struggling farmers are finally seeing light at the end of the tunnel. It's possible consumers will benefit as well in the form of cheaper groceries.
In the second or third quarter, we're likely to see the effect of positive output from agriculture coming in, and that will actually lead in that period to decreasing food prices.
Of course, other factors must be considered.
Remember, South Africa operates in a global context, and it is therefore vulnerable to any economic shocks that are taking place globally, like your oil prices, for instance.
On the back of that news comes an announcement from the airports company South Africa. It's dropping airport charges by more than 35% in April. The new tariffs will affect landing and parking fees for plane and service charges for passengers. One expert says this is likely to filter down to travelers.
One airline doesn't reduce its prices, but others take advantage of the lower charges to reduce their prices. Then the airline that hasn't reduced their prices is probably going to lose out simply because its costs or its ticket prices will no longer be competitive. That's why we can be grateful that we've got pretty much open skies and a competitive in aircraft or airline environment in South Africa. It's good news for the passengers. I expect all the airlines to drop their ticket prices.
Whether flight prices will descend as well will become clear once the new tariffs come into effect. Malungelo Bui, Johannesburg.
It's time now to take a look at the markets. All right, let's see how the weather's doing with Louis.
Need instant cash? Take a look on the bright side. Get a Cash Converters Sunny Day Mini Loan from 400 to 4,000 Rand, only at Cash Converters.
Welcome to the Weather Centre, everyone. There's been some really wet weather over the last few days into the central parts of the country, and there are two systems responsible for that. The first is a tropical low located over Botswana, and the second is a cold front that's now departing into the Indian Ocean. That system has been responsible for pulling down that tropical air from further northwards into the central parts of the country, and that's been bringing the very wet weather to the northwest, the Free State, as well as the Northern Cape. We expect those wet conditions to spread across KwaZulu-Natal on Saturday. There could be some heavier falls of rain towards the western parts of the province. It is going to be mostly cloudy and quite cool for the day over the province. Similar conditions into parts of the Eastern Cape, but as we head further westwards, a gradual drying trend is going to be taking place as the day goes on. For the Western Cape, only early morning, very light rain possible for some of the southern mountains of the province, while it's going to be another sunny, dry but windy day for Cape Town as well as Langebaan. The Northern Cape will be mostly dry except for a few isolated showers and storms in the far eastern parts, including Portsmouthburg and Kimberley. And in the Free State, we expect very wet weather for the northern parts of this province, a possibility for heavy rain for Welkom, Bethlehem as well as Harrismith, so do take care if you're going to be driving on those wet roads. Similar conditions into the northwest. There could be heavy rainfall in places, mostly cloudy and very wet conditions over this province. And it will be a mostly cloudy day for Limpopo, although it remains hot and humid. Isolated showers and storms developing but becoming scattered in the south of the province later on. Wet weather is also going to be pushing in over Mpumalanga as the day goes on, especially in the southern parts. Standerton could have some significant rain, and it's also going to become quite wet over Gauteng during the second half of the day. Cloud cover keeping temperatures in the mid to lower 20s, but Pretoria will be partly cloudy with a high of 28 degrees. A look ahead to Sunday when wet weather continues over the northern parts of the country, cooling things down in Gauteng. Johannesburg reaches a high of 21 degrees. And by Monday, it's going to be sunny and dry all across KZN, and wet weather returns to the Northern Cape.
Brighten your day with a Cash Converters Sunny Day Mini Loan. Come in store and we'll put instant cash right in your pocket. Only at Cash Converters.
All right, after the break, an innovation to help asthma sufferers gets international recognition. South Africa has once again showed it's at the forefront of medical innovation.
Well, not for the first time either. An early warning system for asthma sufferers developed by a young medical student has won first place at an international competition.
PhD student Moses Kibale-Pile has walked away with the top prize at an international pitch fest in Switzerland. This is his winning invention, the Asthma Grid.
What we want to do is we want to give patients an early warning system or an early alert system that would help them better prepare for the eventuality of an attack. We currently have got very good meds managing asthma, but we still lose patients today.
The wearable sensor allows the user to add personal details. It creates a unique profile, which even takes into account the environment. After blowing into the device, it predicts the patient's chances of having an attack. The invention is handy for South Africa, which has one of the highest asthma deaths in the world. People between the ages of 5 and 35 are particularly at risk. Kibale-Pile is personally invested in the research, as 2 of his siblings struggle with the respiratory condition. The University of Pretoria student believes the invention could revolutionize the self-management of asthma.
When I read the letter from Mr. Barlow, I really could already see the future of what we're doing, that, you know what, Switzerland might have not translated into a funding opportunity, but the strength was, validating our idea.
But the route from innovation to production is not easy. Kibale-Pile hopes funders will increase their support for inventors, especially at the early stages. This could see potentially life-saving products reach the shelves quicker. Lauren Rose Joseph, Pretoria.
Here's a reminder of our top stories before we go. A rookie Metro police officer is behind bars after allegedly shooting dead a motorist for not stopping at a roadblock. The ANC drops an attempt to control media coverage of its birthday celebrations on Sunday. And that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
Yep, until next time, good night.